Travis, it's divorce night for us as our hockey teams play each other.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Two terrible teams squaring off.
You
At least
ready?
you guys are from the winter time.
Yes,
have
we
a
are
hockey
from
team, and it
Wintertown.
never gets cold here.
Like to hear it? Here it go. Oh, it's the last time of 2024 to be awesome together. And I brought in some awesome people. Our awesome co-host, Tyra Burton, is out tonight. She went to the land of magic and is down in Disney World. So in order to fill her shoes, I had to bring in at least 3 Jamooks over here. We got TV's Travis.
Yo.
Got a nice hat on. Steven, who's still trying to push this blue sky, whatever crap. And then
Hey.
Philip, the Tyler Durden of the entire internet.
Hi, everyone.
So I tapped you guys because you guys are amazing and awesome people. And I wanted to talk about with you guys specifically, and I wish Tyra could be here. Just kind of let's look at our year, right? Starting from the beginning of 2024, as creators, as people, as humans, right? What have we accomplished? What have we set out to do this year that we knocked out and had fun with? And celebrate your victory. And it can be whatever you want it to be. So Travis, what do you got?
I mean, it was a lot of year for me. I started and am ending it with a new tattoo, which is always fun. So that's kind of fun. But honestly, the biggest thing for me this year was doing live podcast episodes in front of an audience for the first time. I did 2. First one was in Las Vegas, and then Dragon Con. That was a huge step for me. And,
That is awesome.
It went way better than I could have ever anticipated it going. So, yeah.
Tell us more. What did you anticipate? Were you nervous? Were you scared? Was it?
Of course I was nervous. I suffer from imposter syndrome like every other, good podcaster does. And I honestly, so the first one was in Vegas, and it was with a meetup, and I'm thinking, all right, 3 people will be there because it wasn't a large deal at all. And I had a couple dozen people in there, and it was really interactive. And I had some people that had never seen Labyrinth before, so it was great to just sit and talk Jim Henson productions for a while. And we had some puppeteers that were in the audience, so that was a lot of fun. But it went so much better and smoother than I thought it was going to. And what I found was I was super, super nervous until about 30 seconds before we started. And then all of a sudden, I just flipped into go mode and I was fine. And I barely remember any of it, but I was fine. And then it was over, and it was just, for the first time, doing that in front of an audience of people directly in front of me instead of on the other side of a screen where I can't see them, was great. And it was perfect for then doing it at Dragon Con because more people showed up there, and people that I didn't know and hadn't met before were there. So that was, again, very, very nerve-wracking. But for that, I was smart because I called in the 2 of you, Charles and Phil, to take a lot of that pressure off of me.
Get the clowns in there, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to this very independent podcast this year called Conan Needs a Friend, and he had Bill Hader on there, and Hader was talking about exactly what you were talking about, where he even still gets that anxiety right before he goes on stage, and he says if somebody ever loses that, that's kind of when you lose the passion for what you're doing and going out there in front of people. So
I can see that, yeah.
Even these people that go out there every week on SNL still deal with the same stuff that us indie creators are dealing with, especially with live performances.
And I can imagine that just scales to be, depending on where you are and what you're doing. But no, it was really, it made me feel like I actually am doing the thing that I'm supposed to be doing. once I sat down and did that, right? Because like I've been doing it for a couple years now, and I've done a bunch of episodes, but it's very different in that environment. So to sit down and do that there and have it go off without a hitch and smoothly, and then the feedback I got immediately after that too was really cool, because as podcasters we love feedback, and but you don't always get that, and certainly not at a high frequency. But when somebody is in the room and they come up to you afterwards to tell you that something was they enjoyed the thing, or whatever that might be, or later on that day when you're at another event, and to hear that really helped too. And what it did was I've had these weird little milestones along the way that have helped like re-energize me to doing the shows that I'm doing. And that's one of them. Like early on in my podcasting, it was doing America's Next Top Podcaster and just meeting a bunch of new people and kind of spreading that out. And now doing this and doing these live episodes reinvigorated me and really got me going once again. And I want to do more of them in 2025. So I'm hoping to at least expand that to a third live one for my local con, and we'll see from there.
I think Fan X is in Salt Lake City. I'm not sure how close you are.
It's the other side of the country.
Okay. No, Hammond's out in the
Yeah.
desert. I forget. Yeah. Where are you? What basically where are you located, Travis?
I'm in Michigan. I'm in the frozen north.
So there might be a Renfest you could try.
Well, we have a local con in my town, and I know some of the people that put that on. So I'm working on that to try and get into that one this year, and then we'll see if maybe I'll try to do like I know there's Grand Rapids, and there's a couple of other. Plus, I just want to get out to more events in general, and we'll see about doing like more live shows, but I just want to get out to more events and do more like kind of on the floor type things as well.
Do you guys find yourself, obviously we all have the desire to create, we have the desire to go and connect and be part of these things, but then you find that you don't really want to go out and connect locally.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a time thing to me. It's like, where am I going to put my priorities? Is the priorities to be at the house, or is the priorities to go out and help these people or those people, or is it to go flaunt my skills at some con and try to act like I'm something worth listening to? That's the challenge for me. But I like the local stuff. I've done a couple local cons. Ashley and I, when we were cool, we did Bull City Comic Con in Durham, and we did Galaxy Con in Raleigh. Both were great experiences. And I would love to do those again if I could find the time,
Steven, you're cool like Andy Griffith is cool. My grandma loves you, but cool is not.
Oh,
yeah.
I know what lane I'm supposed to be in. I'm gonna own that lane.
So for me locally, it's kind of weird because where I live in Pennsylvania, I can hit about 6 major cities in about 5 or less hours. We've been in contact with like MagFest and PAX Unplugged East out of Philadelphia. And we have so many, not so many, but we have people on the show that I do that aren't readily available, right? I have somebody who lives, in the South. And so it's hard for me to work 4 schedules together, especially one traveling so far away to do more than one con. And it kind of seems like Dragon Con seems to be the mecca. It is where we started, but it's also, if these co-hosts that I have PTO, they kind of save it all for Dragon Con.
Yeah.
And then that's about it.
I mean that is good.
I was just going to say, for me, the biggest issue is just proximity. Because where you've got several large cities, that have things going on. I have one convention that started a few years ago here, but that's it until Grand Rapids. And it's so much work to get anywhere that it's tougher for me.
And that's the thing. I mean, you get spread out, or your remoteness. I do Wise and Nerdy with Joe Ard. at most 3 hours distance between us. And he's in Chattanooga, sizable city. I'm in Atlanta, sizable city. So this past year, we'll probably talk a little bit more about this a little bit later, but this past year I got him hooked in. Like, he's done Dragon Con and that's about it. So I got him into the con circuit by looking up stuff in Chattanooga, and we did Chattacon, and then got to do Southern Fried, and got him to do Conjuration, which is a smaller one here, and he got more and more hooked in. But Kurt is up in New Hampshire, and Kurt only likes to take a cruise every other month, so he can't be bothered to come to a con. But that's the thing. It's like we talk to him every time about it and say, hey, this is how it works. Speaking of the desert of Salt Lake, there's Hammond.
Hey,
Hammond Chamberlain.
What about that?
I know that guy.
Oh my gosh.
But more locally, back in like 2013, 2014, Atlanta, the city decided to do a podcast week, and the city itself sponsored a podcast week, and a bunch of people came out, and I didn't really meet anybody. I mean, I met people, but nothing ever coalesced, right? And they never did it again. But I think roughly out of that was born Podcast Atlanta, and people like Phaedra Black are involved. Bobby Blackwolf got me involved there right before COVID, and I was able to do a guest speaker thing, and I went in, and it was cool to talk about, here's how you, as a digital media creator, here's how you pitch to conventions, here's how you can get panels, and what you can expect from them, those kind of things. And I was like, man, this is really cool. Local community, 30 minutes from my house at most. I mean, they move around the city, but I'm close enough to the city. It's not a big deal. You know how many meetings I've been to since before COVID? 0, except for that one I spoke at. And then I met Mark Deal, runs it. I met him again at another conference, and we had some mutual friends. We all went to dinner, and we talked more about doing stuff together. I just find, Stephen, you're talking about that battle of, well, do I be at home? Do I do this? Do I do that? And I am that guy, and it bugs the crap out of me that I'm this way. But I'm that guy's like, it takes me nothing. I know when I get there, I love it, and I will be more influential in the city. I'll learn more from other people. I'll do all kind of cool stuff. And then I'm like, nah. I just sit here and play my game or something. And it drives me crazy that I do that. And to the point that I'm actually going to do a project with Podcast Atlanta in 2025. Tyra and I both are working with them on that. So to go see a venue that we might be working in, I went to their last event of the year. I almost didn't go. I was like, it's a Saturday, but I went because work, right? In my mind, it's work. I'm obligated. Best thing ever. Met really cool people, walked through this amazing sound studio that is renovating themselves. They've been in Atlanta for 20 years, but the kids of the owners basically took over and made it modern. And they're really trying to get into podcasting and digital media. And it just so much fun, but I'm going to have to push myself in 2025 to do more of that. So, Hammond, we're talking about, do you find yourself as a creator not getting as involved in your local community outside of your house? Because it's just easier to click on the internet and talk to Phil.
So I used to, and still am part of a couple of different podcast coalitions here in Salt Lake. But they've kind of dried up as far as meetings. So every once in a while, I'll still get invites and I'll still go. I mean, I've done a few things since the pandemic ended, but it's mostly because the community is just not as active as it used to be. And I mean, I still get together I got Frog Pants Man here in town. I'm 20 minutes from him. So we go to lunch on occasion, and that's out of my house and networking to an extent. So, I mean, it's interesting because before the pandemic, we had a lot going on. We had like conventions, like day-long cons that would happen, like the podcast meetup, and
exactly, yeah.
But it seems like since then, it's been a lot harder to get people in the same room, and so all my local stuff I do now is pretty much just like one-to-one meetings I have with people who are either starting shows, running shows, and it's because I'm reaching out to them because I want to either work with them, network with them, just get to know them. I mean, I'm doing something just coming up early next month with a woman who runs a podcast about true crime based in the LDS Church.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It does
I'll
sound
listen.
interesting.
Yeah, I want in on that.
The church or the podcast?
Or the crime.
the podcast,
Well,
probably. I mean, you know,
I tell you what, I'll help you with the true crime part. Joe can help you with the church part since I'm not part of that.
that's right. I can always talk to Joe.
So Travis did talk about he got to do some live events. We'll just kind of go counterclockwise.
Actually, real quick, let me before Travis, have you been hooked up with Olivia yet?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yep.
I have made a concerted effort over this last year to do things in the moment to get them off my plate, because for most of my career and life, it's been I'll get to it and then you forget.
Okay.
And sometimes it just never happens. Sometimes it happens 6 months later. So yeah, that one, like when she was on Wise and Nerdy as we're wrapping the post show, I went ahead and shot off an email to.
All right.
To them.
So is that a bat symbol behind you or the Wu-Tang symbol behind you?
Oh, it's
It's-
a bad symbol.
It's
It
Woo
looks-
Bat for life.
It's a bat tang.
Yeah,
Dang.
Bat Tang is for the children.
that's something different. I'll send you a private message, Hammond.
Yeah. So Hammond in the
The
year
bat tang would be for the orphans, Travis, not the children.
Fair.
Real Ash Cat says, "Hey, it's all my favorite people and Philip Keating."
And that's great.
I didn't know I was a favorite person of anybody outside my house.
So this year, 2024, as we're wrapping up, what's some victories you've had? It can be personal, it can be creative, Hammond, it can be whatever. What's
Me
something you wanna
first, or
celebrate?
we're going.
Well, Travis already talked about how he got to do
Oh.
2 live shows this year, and it's kind of like 2 live crew, but he kept his clothes on.
I've the second half of the year has actually really picked up for me. I got picked up to be an editor on DTNS, so that starts in January. I am helping produce 3 new shows coming out all within the first part of the year. One is with a woman who's been on Broadway. Her name is Meredith Patterson. Another one's a local show about local businesses here in town. The other one's about helping someone who talks to women who've had major impacts on the Salt Lake Valley and the community here in Utah. So I'm excited about all that. I've got a couple other irons in the fire. I've got a couple of the big names that I've had on my wish list since I started the show that they're probably going to be on by the time
Nice.
January, February rolls around, just based on their schedules. And I feel like one of them in particular, once I get his interview nailed down and I get it in the can, I feel like I got to actually stop podcasting, period.
Oh, wow. One of those.
Yeah.
You also went to Fremont Street and didn't
Get arrested this
get
year.
arrested. So,
Yeah, it's
you know,
true. There's always
say
next
this
year.
time?
Always next year.
that's true, but it's an improvement over 2023.
Yeah.
Interesting stories.
Short story, Ibbott nearly got me arrested on Fremont Street. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, Evan, sure. The nicest guy in podcasting almost got you arrested. All right. So I've seen some of your social media. And I don't remember the name of the band, but it's some band that you obviously like. You, in the comment you had made was you tagged them. You said, "Hey, love your voice. Would love to have you on my show."
Yep. Tiki Hawk.
Yeah. So does that typically work for you, or is that just a Hail Mary you throw out just in case?
Sometimes it works. I've gotten more with less. One time I actually just posted a comment and just said, I love this new song, and didn't even say anything, just love this new song. And they reached out to me. I've actually sent a couple emails, and I figured, and she's busy. I mean, she's got a huge following, but it was on Blue Sky, and since it's a new format, that I kind of figured that maybe she won't be inundated with tags and messages at that point. So I figured to give it a shot there because of just the volume isn't quite as high as it is like on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. So that one I will say was a Hail Mary, but at the same time I've had less work almost as well.
Okay. So coming back around the clock, Steven,
Yeah.
what's some awesomeness that you've achieved this year?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. You know, I only think in 2-week increments, 2 weeks previous and 2 weeks in the future. I can't, but I will do my best. Every year.
When's your anniversary?
My wedding anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's May 15th.
See, you just disproved yourself, sir. You can think outside of 2 weeks. Okay.
That's a survival instinct.
Yeah,
That has nothing to do with work. That's a survival
Right.
instinct.
You see how I had to think about it too? My wife and I will routinely wake up and my mother-in-law will say happy anniversary. Be like, crap, it's our anniversary. That's the way we operate. But
As
it's
long
all
as you're
fine.
equal in that.
Yeah,
that's
we're on the
awesome.
same page.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're on the same page. So every year I start out the year and I try to come up with some word theme. What's the word of the year? What are we doing this year?
Okay.
Consistency was this year's word, and I consistently accomplished the things that were put in front of me. But not whether I planned for those or not is another story. But we do had some small victories. We continued those for the days all year, and anytime a podcast makes it this far and continues, I'm excited about it because most of them die on the vine, and we've managed to wrangle 4 people into a podcast continuously, which I think is a small victory. And then
Definitely.
DragonCon came, and honestly, like in my podcasting universe of how I work, DragonCon is the new year, and then I roll off that new year energy from DragonCon and try and maintain it to the next DragonCon, because that's where all my friends are. That's where all the creative people that I meet are, with the motivation and the
Sure,
we got
yeah.
ideas. Let's talk. Let's do all this. To get so excited about it. So that was huge. And Travis and I have been thinking about a thing that we're planning on doing here soon. That I've determined that we both of us seem to work the same way, and that we do what you do: have to plan it and have to do it then. Because we've both been stewing on it for like 6 months, and I'm like,
a little
if
too
we
long.
could just
Yeah.
do it. So it's almost like I need somebody just to grab me and make me.
That's why I told
to
you
work.
we're scheduling
Yes.
that in January.
Well, and that's the
January,
thing. That's the thing is you can kick around an idea forever, but until you put a date, like a start date,
Yeah.
it's never going to happen. The minute you
No.
put you put a date to it, that means you're accountable to yourself, to the other person, to whoever else is involved, and it helps because I've had ideas. I've wanted to clean my room since 1987. I still haven't done it.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I mean,
That's literally my entire podcasting career because I did that. Then I finally set a date for myself, started it, and now I haven't missed a week doing my podcast since then.
yeah, and I haven't
Yeah.
missed a week since I just turned Beyond the Playlist just turned 11 on the 8th, and I've done 745 consecutive episodes.
I'd show off.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
Here I am thinking, oh, I'm going to do 300 my 300th this week, and that's a big thing. And you're 745. All right.
We did one thing that was Victorious for is me and Ashley did manage to squeeze out some shows of horseshoes and hand grenades in the latter half of this year, which was huge for us. We're actually up to episode 580 now. And then she had to go and have another baby again last Saturday.
Well, congrats, Smashy.
So yeah, congrats.
You put the smash and smashy, I tell you.
Yeah, but that felt good. And then we just on last Friday we got our charity stream, Legion of Dorks, Toys for Tots charity stream off the ground. Managed to make $2,100 for the tots,
Nice.
which was super exciting. Squats for Tots was another roaring success. I'd love to see get bigger, and that is every $5 that was donated, I did one squat. And I ended up doing 253 squats.
Woo.
Because I'm leaning into the idea that people want to hurt you more than they want to help you.
Oh, by the way, hey, we'll just say this: Hodor.
Oh, stop.
See, that goes to the same theory. People just want to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's been a good year. I feel good about it. I feel good going into next year, man. I couldn't be happier. So
We're
I'm
definitely
all
going
right.
to talk some ideas and plans for 2025 in general.
Sure.
Coming up. But Phil, what did you do great this year? What did you hit?
Well, the one thing that I don't do ever is kind of what I did post DragonCon, and I gave myself time off. I was actually, years and years, I was, streaming on Sundays, streaming on Mondays, doing a little Tuesdays, doing double streams on Tuesdays, right?
Philip Scared Stupid, those kind of things. Yeah.
Doing guest
loved
work,
it.
and that's what you mean. I did Philip Scared Stupid because people like to see me go through these horror games. And after DragonCon, I said, man, I could really use a break. I wish I would give myself a break. And so I did. Except for the botched live streams every Tuesday, I haven't streamed since DragonCon, right? I'm giving myself that time to recharge. I'm giving myself that time to really reorganize what's important with these retro streams and these horror streams. And the break has been well overdue. And it's kind of gotten me to get my cards back in order so that we can make a kickoff in the new year with not only new streams, but also, like everyone's been saying, projects that I've been kicking down the roads for about 6 years. So I did minor scheduling. I've financially invested in some album art. And that's where I need to get in gear. If I have money in the game, well, then I just can't sit on it anymore.
Yeah.
So I think just giving myself and realizing like, hey, you can take time off and have it not negatively affect what I'm doing in a creative stance, but also very much positively, bringing my life to a higher quality. Man, I should have done this years ago, but it feels good, man. And, I have a plan. I was going to text Hammond soon because the project that I have in mind, 3 out of the 4 people here will be invited, and 2 of them have already committed. So, I look forward to next year as I launch a new podcast.
It's my new show. Hammond is an afterthought.
Yeah, no, it's not an afterthought. You are on. I made a list of 10 people, and you're on it.
You're number 11.
Yeah. And number 9 said no.
Yeah.
You make a really strong point though about putting money into it. That's a really like having album art somehow makes it real to the point where you're like, well, now. And that's a small, like, album art is a big piece of a podcast, whether you believe it or not. Like, that's what people see to make sure if they to decide if they're going to listen or not. The album art's cool. That's half the I'm about to click that kind of approach. So I might take that same strategy and just go for it and get some album art, and then feel like we've got a real product on our hands that we have to put something behind.
Well, and we all know some incredible artists. Like in our own Rolodexes, we've got artists that we should be and probably more so supporting and helping get work for other people or whatever. And I think just by committing to artwork, not only are you helping yourself, but you're also helping someone because you're getting them a little bit of scratch for their effort, which then gets them noticed, which then work begets work.
Yeah.
And something else that I've been doing this year that we haven't really talked about publicly is that kind of the shows and the programs that I bring to DragonCon. I've been kind of reworking them and kind of, seeing what worked last year and seeing what I dropped last year and trying to figure out new ways to revive some of these panels and have it be completely new, but still hold on to the essence of what those panels were. So we'll talk about it when we get into the future, but I'm excited to announce a couple panels coming back, hopefully, to DragonCon 2025.
I would like to see it. You're talking about setting that date, and you quote Mark Dio because he actually said it recently to me. That's why it's on my mind. Is he likes to fail quickly, which I love that idea. Like, let's just get to it. So he will put a date, and like this project that we're talking about doing is March 1st. That's 3 weeks. That's less than 3 months away, and to get a live event put together and knocked out and done on a small scale, but still a scale. And that I found to be true. Like when I don't put a date, if I don't say I have to get this done, I won't go get it done. And I do believe in declaring things. And so like last year, I don't like
you're Southern. You're Southern, so I declare as part of your
declare.
We declare down here. I declare.
But words can mean things. Does not go in crazy count. Jenica says, yeah, okay, that's a victory. There you go. We appreciate that one. But last year I said, you know what? I'm tired of saying I want to go speak in places and I want to get invited to talk and get in front of the world. I'm tired of laughingly saying I'm the biggest secret the world doesn't know about, because if the world just knew who I was, I'd be as big as any of these other people that the world knows who they are. Because I think a lot of us are this way, that we're creative, we're fun, we just aren't as known. And I decided to do something about it. So I just randomly said, okay, it's about getting motion. It's about getting that goal. So I said, I'm going to do 24 speaking engagements by the end of 2024. By the end of November, I had 34 speaking engagements done. And there were some generic rules, right? I didn't make it super hard, super difficult. Like, wow, I had to get paid and get flown out to so-and-so. It was, as long as I didn't make the podcast, so like none of the Be Awesomes Together count, none of the shows that I put together count. But if I got invited to guest on a show, I think I did a Botched Goes to the Movies or whatever, Botched Watched, even though you won't ever use that cool name. I think you guys had me on one time this year. That kind of thing. So those kind of things counted. And then Joe even was like, well, did you count every panel at Conjuration? I'm like, yes, because I did 11 different 1 hour speaking gigs over that weekend. I absolutely count all of those as a positive. So with that kind of in mind, I'm going to use what Sarah said here earlier. She says, I feel that you were talking about doing the con thing, and Travis, I think you were talking about doing the shows and how you want to do more. Because I feel that after Dragon Con, I went through a big think about what I've been doing the past 2 years and to decide if I still had the passion for it or wanted to continue putting the work into it. I decided I did, and I'm excited to do even more in 2025. So I'm going to kick it back to Phil and come around another way. What is something that you want to achieve? What's a goal that you want to set for yourself in 2025?
This new show I'm going to launch in April.
Okay.
I'm going to get all 10 episodes recorded, edited, and then parse them out. But I'm giving myself a launch date of April to get this up and running. So that's something that I'm holding myself to, and probably will start recording come January so that I can start recording, these sessions, but then also editing these sessions at, the same time so that, once April comes around, I've got 10 finished episodes in the can and then can just drip feed them, bi-weekly to get them out and about. I also am giving myself, ample time to kind of do a little bit more guest work this year. I did, unfortunately, since I was trying to give myself some time to recharge, I said no, but not, not right now, right? Come at me, in a couple months and see where I'm at that point. So I think once we hit the new year and I start that process again to getting, back in the grind of digital creation, I'll be not only more motivated, but I'll be sharper that I can do this guesswork and come at it, swinging.
What about you, Steven?
Oh man, that's a really good question. So I want to do more content for sure. Like right now, I'm down to one podcast a week. It almost feels like I don't have a lot. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to be too overwhelmed. But where Horseshoes and Hand Grenades was pretty regular, and then Those Were the Days was pretty regular, it was great to have 2 things a week. Right now, I'm just doing Those Were the Days. And one of the things I think I would love to get back to is whether that's Horseshoes and Hand Grenades or not, is some show where I can let loose a little bit, not have so much structure. Like, I love what Those Were the Days is, but there's a lot of structure. And I miss doing Horseshoes and Hand Grenades with Ashley because there's so much chaos. And I'm not a chaotic person, but I kind of thrive in it, and it lets me loose just to say random stuff that I normally wouldn't get the opportunity to express in front of an audience, because we're all really closeted narcissists with imposter syndrome at the end of the day. We just want to say stuff, people to see it, be excited about it. So I got to find something to start. I don't have a full plan in place.
No. You don't have to have a plan.
You've got a concept of a plan.
I've got a concept of a plan.
Oh my God.
Too soon.
Yeah. But my kid's getting older and a little bit more into his own stuff at night, which is freeing me up to do stuff like this. Like, there was a time where I would be like, that's at 8 o'clock. That's like go time for getting kids to bed and stuff. And I had to say no to a lot. I probably said no to you a bunch, to Phil a bunch, to Travis a bunch. And I'm getting used to saying yes, because this energizes me. And as someone who's a people pleaser, I'm often putting myself to the side to like make sure everybody else has got what they need and they're okay. If you could tell, I've been through some counseling this year that's helping me out. But like, I'm trying to be like, what I want's okay, and I can do the things, and I can say yes, and I can go do stuff that makes me feel like I'm serving my purpose, so to speak. And I want to do more of that in 2025. Really lean in on what I feel geared to do and get it out there.
You know,
This segment brought to you by Better Health.
No,
Use code Squidman discount.
Anyone but better help.
you said right. Okay. Yeah. I've used that one. There's better out there. But Stephen, you said purpose. And I think that is what sets us apart, right? As far as digital media creators, not everybody who creates digital media is going to be the rock stars, right? And some people just use it to promote what their real purpose in life is out there. But for those of us that our purpose is to storytell, to create, to entertain, and that's something else with these guys. I think Hammond's the only one who does this full time right now, but all of us, that is truly our goal in life, is to not work a day job, to always work this and to enjoy the different aspects that we enjoy about it. How did you, because on Be Awesome Together, we are awesome together, but we also try to help those who are getting started versus, on all levels. So how did you figure out that it wasn't a hobby for you? It wasn't this cool little thing you tried, that it is a purpose, or at least feeds into the purpose of your life?
That took some soul searching. I knew I liked being on the internet. I like doing podcasts. I've been doing podcasts since I heard Leo Laporte say the word in 2005 or whatever. I was like, I can do that, and immediately wanted to do it. But before that, I was entertaining my whole life, and I don't think I realized that until much later, that at the core of everything is this desire to entertain. Telling jokes when I was a kid to the family, doing puppeteering in high school. Being in a band in high school, and that thrill of being on stage and playing music in front of people and seeing them react to it. It's a drug, and I got very addicted to it. And I was like, I need this. But I didn't have anybody to play with. Once I moved to Florida, and I was by myself out in the rural middle of nowhere, and I was like, I had nothing till podcasting happened. I was like, I can talk into a microphone. I could put it on archive.org for free. This is way back when you didn't have all these resources. And then, it just kept going from there. One of them fell apart. I found more people. I'm like, we got to do something. I want to tell a story. I want to talk. And then I did the one with Ashley that lasted 580 episodes. I'm like, and everyone said, she's not going to stick with you. She's going to fall apart. No, longest running one, because she, too, is a narcissist that needs to tell stories. She's not really a narcissist
but
either.
Also, that having kids feeds into narcissism, so you did lose a little bit. You did lose a little bit.
Yeah.
Mommy outranks pod mom.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's how I figured out. I'm gonna do this. I do it at work now. I lead our big company meetings because I'm the one that's wants to be on the microphone. I want to play the music. I want to make it more fun. So I took it all to real life stuff, real life work stuff, and it's just, I'm not gonna quit. Even if nobody's listening, I'm gonna be out there doing this.
That is what separates it from a hobby, right? Is when we had nobody listening, definably nobody's reaching out. We saw the downloads that we saw in our friends and families, and that was it. We're still refining our craft.
I still have nobody listening, and I still do it.
What?
I still have nobody listening, but I still do it.
Huh?
Thank you, Travis. So Hammond, what's I know you're starting a new job in podcasting with DTNS in 2025. Along with that, what's a goal for yourself that you're
there's something I need. I'm actually gonna ask you guys. I need help learning how to use OBS efficiently. I know I'm gotta lean more into a video setup, and I look at OBS and I can get the basics, but there are still parts of OBS that seems like witchcraft to me, and I need help desperately getting OBS down.
I got you.
Okay, Travis, we'll set some time up, and you can give me a couple lessons.
I can show you some things.
Yeah, OBS can be daunting. It's almost like jumping into After Effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
With no manual, and you're just there's so much you can do that it's overwhelming at first, but
and then all the YouTube guys I've watched give different answers to get to the same thing. And I understand I understand that there are many answers to a question, and I understand that just from what I used to do in the past. But I want one answer that I can know consistently works. And I follow 3 or 4 examples, and I'm like, it worked once, and now I can't get it to repeat itself. And so it's one of those things where I'm getting frustrated, and I know I need to learn it. I know I need to evolve, but that's it. I desperately need help with it.
But Hammond, it is kind of just like podcasting, where you've got to start somewhere and you just get into it, and then fail, and then you take the bones of what you've learned, and then that's where you start building on top of it and start shaping OBS out of clay. Like doing OBS is like, I was right there with you, dude. When I started streaming about 6 years ago, I was like, whoa, this is too overwhelming for me. I had the basic setup where I got the game in and I got my camera and somehow I got my USB mic in. Great, we'll go with that. And then now, I've got really layered scenes that
fancy AF. I know.
Yeah, and my transitions are good, and I've gone to Etsy to buy, different moving backgrounds and animations and all that. And so I've blended that all in, but I had to stumble and fail live in front of people before I can get where I am now, where I'm not streaming and I've spent all this time building this.
Yeah, but that's part of it, is learning OBS. That's one of my goals for next year, and it was on 2024's list of things for me to do, but the show that I was kind of putting myself in a position to have to learn it for kind of fell through, and it wasn't because of anything in particular. It was just scheduling, timing, and people moved and priorities changed, and it's not a bad thing. I still work with these people, but I've got potentials to do a live show with Neil Marshall, who directed The Descent and Dog Soldiers. I've been working with him for about a year now, and he and JD, who I do Goes to the Movies with, they want to do something sponsored by the BFI, and that's a big deal, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but at the same time, I want to be prepared to be able to make it happen if they do.
Now, I will say this, and this is very much down the road for you. It's not something you should go out and get right away, but my Stream Deck,
Yep.
I have one of those coming for Christmas. I already know I'm getting one for Christmas.
It is like OBS, programmable. It's daunting. Yeah. You could do a lot with it. It seems scary. All the YouTube videos tell you different things, right?
I use this for Logic and Final Cut. It's called Tourbox Pro, and it saves me hours.
You like that? I've been looking at something like that for a while.
I had a Contour
so I will have some
shuttle.
questions for you.
Yeah, I had a Contour shuttle that I used for years, and then Logic updated and it pooped. It won't take Contour anymore. So I had to emergency buy this from Amazon and show up before I had to turn around and edit for DTNS to prove I could do it. And it was the best $175 I've ever spent. So,
I'm pretty sure I had something a lot bigger than that back in the early 2000s at the Art Institute to help me edit video a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. No menu diving. Everything's programmed in. I love it. So if you're doing any production, then that's what I recommend. But the other thing that's been interesting for me is I'm walking this fine line now between, I have two shows that I'm on and I love doing them. And again, like Steven, I'd like to have a show where I just got to talk and be funny and kind of go on my own personality, because Beyond the Playlist is all about putting a spotlight on somebody else, and Soundography is talking about bands and music. And I can be a little bit silly and goofy in there, but it's got barriers, guardrails to kind of keep me from veering too far off. And I'd like to have a show that was just two people shooting the breeze and telling jokes and talking about their lives, because those are the shows where people get to know who you are. And that's why they come back and find your other shows. And I like Hammond because of this. No one shows up Beyond the Playlist for me. I don't think they show up for who my guests are, which is great. But I'd like for someone to show up for a show that I'm on because of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to take that step back with, you're talking about the OBS help and the equipment, everybody's, let's ask this, talk this. That's the thing that stops us from achieving our goals is I have to do it alone, right? Mm-hmm. Because I'm poor or whatever. I can't afford to buy equipment. I can't afford to pay a teacher. Well, there's lots of YouTube channels, but obviously there can be some mix of information. But you just keep trying. You keep finding your people. You don't have to go to DragonCon. You can go to our Discord of digital media.
And Lord knows I'm not going back to DragonCon.
Come on. Come on.
He got
You'll be
broken.
safe.
fun.
You can hang out with me, buddy. Come on.
Don't hang out with Phil. Hang out with
Come
me
on.
and Travis.
No, that's boring.
I hang out with Travis in Vegas. Travis is a safe
I
space
got
for
these
me.
guys under the bridge.
And I'm
that
at
really wanna
Dragon
meet
Con,
you, man. They're
so-
good dudes. Trevor's a wonderful
sometimes-
dude.
Actually, here's the
Sometimes-
best part about Vegas is Travis is now probably going to be a victim of Taskmaster.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. I've been roped in.
Yep.
Yeah, and yes, sometimes in these searches you find people like Phil who'll introduce you to people under bridges, and
Hey.
sometimes you meet people like Travis who make
No,
safe
no,
spaces for you.
I don't have anything
I
against
also
people who live in their.
introduced
I don't have any
Travis.
problem with people who live in their bridges. I used to work in the jail. Some charming people live in their bridges.
Time and circumstances, the only thing that separates us.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
But
And number of teeth.
Yeah, you're right.
It's currency under the bridge. The teeth.
That's my Red Hot Chili Peppers tribute band.
teeth under the bridge. But yeah, so we can get frustrated. I think what kept all of us going is just that desire to get our voices heard in the formats that we wanted to be heard in and be seen in. And you can always find something like, I'm very frustrated with StreamYard, and I'm already, because I paid for the year, so I don't have to up it again until April, and they've like doubled their price, like almost literally doubled their price. And it's other things are going on with it that really frustrate me. But when the time is right, which will probably be right after the new year, I'll find something to replace it. And I do like OBS, but it can be layers, as you said, versus just. But sometimes simplicity is not
There's
simplicity.
something called Prism, Stream Prism, something or
There's all
other.
kind of ones out there.
Yeah, and I
actually-
actually looked at that one, but it OBS. I already sunk so much time into OBS. I didn't want to undo everything to try to relearn something else.
Oh,
Go where
well,
the support is.
here's something for creators. Sometimes you do have to cut your losses and not chalk up so much time you invested. I'm not saying you should, but
Yeah,
if you can learn it, great. But if you give an opportunity to learn something else, it might just work for your brain and your style.
oh, and
better.
that happened with I tried Reaper, and Reaper's great. I love Reaper, but it didn't work my brain the same way as
Sure.
it did with Logic. So I had to sink the money into Logic
there
because
you go.
whatever it was not connecting my brain with Reaper, and I will never discourage Reaper because the Reaper army will come get me. So that's a devoted group of people. But Logic worked in my brain, and same thing happened. Like I was playing with DaVinci, and DaVinci was great, and I like DaVinci, but it didn't work for my brain like Final Cut did. And I'm not going to do Adobe because I don't want to pay for permission to use a program that that I could lose my permissions at any moment.
Yeah, and I get
Yeah.
that.
No.
Travis, what are some of your goals besides doing at least one more con? What's some goals that you have in 25?
So one of the things that I wanted to do, kind of similar to what Hammond was saying, where like he wants to be on a show to kind of give his personality out there. I get to do that a little bit with Wait You Haven't Seen, just because it is about my guest, but I'm still like I'm always just going to be me. But I want to kind of diversify my voice a little bit in terms of what I'm doing. So I've got more audio projects in the works, but I want to get doing some more video work, whether it be like video essays type things that are more structured. I do a lot of self-editing and live to tape type things. It's just I've been able to wire myself that way to where it works really, really well. But I want to do more structured things as well, because I think that those are good muscles to flex, and they're important to be able to kind of do both, so that I can drop in and do something live, but I can also show, hey, no, I can make a thing that is a little bit more polished. So there's that aspect of it, and I think a little bit, Steven, the project we're talking about doing, getting started in January, I want to go in that direction a little bit more with, and getting better with my editing, both audio and video, is something that I've been wanting to do, and I just haven't taken the time to do. So that's one. And I have some writing, and writing is a big one for me. I've got a project that I'm converting from short story format into a comic script. And I want to get better with that and do more with it and expand it beyond the what I have for it so far. But there's the first kind of 10 chapters are already written out. I just need to convert them. So that's another big project for me, is doing that.
Isn't that just changing the font to Comic Sans to commit comic script?
Yeah. No, because I have a little bit of like reworking to do with it. The stories were originally written, 18, 19 years ago, something like that. So I've got a little massaging to do to them. But like that's a big project that I have been kicking down the road. I finally gave myself a date for that. Like I'm planning to have that kicked off and start looking for somebody to do the artwork for it like January, February. So, that's another big project for me. But it's just because I do love storytelling, and I will do this, continue to do this when nobody listens, because it's just what I enjoy doing. But I want to do different types of stories. I mean, as a high schooler, I was big into making movies. That was what I thought I was going to do at one point in my life. And I was going to go to film school, and I was going to do all these things, and it never worked out. And I got away from it for a long time. This digital creation has let me get back to that storytelling part of me that I let lie dormant for way too long. So I'm just wanting to keep kind of flexing different muscles in that and keep doing, new and varied projects. So I'm not just doing the same things. I had a podcast run for 150 episodes roughly, just about that, all on Highlander. That got retired this year because I ran out of Highlander content to talk about.
So much fanfic. So much fanfic.
But the nice thing was I did get to end that by interviewing the man himself, Adrian Paul, to finish that whole project off. So that was a great way to, like, it timed out perfectly where I was in Scotland with him on a tour, and I interviewed him, and then I put that episode out, and it was the end.
Is that the Guylander? Is that him? Was that the guy?
Yeah, that was Adrian Paul. Adrian Paul was Duncan MacLeod.
And I still think he would have made a great James Bond if they got him early enough.
Oh, he would have. He really would have.
Like instead of Timothy Dalton, they'd gone for him. That would have been a perfect Bond.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten Highlander, but he would have been good as Bond.
This is a weird tangent, but when Travis said he was going to go to film school, Travis, and I had a conversation at Dragon Con.
Yes,
I was going to touch on this.
It cracked me up that there's some alternate universe where we all went to Full Sail University in Orlando because we were all looking within the same couple years.
We all toured it around the same time.
Yeah,
and we all almost went, but
various reasons.
I couldn't. After leaving Philadelphia and having my own apartment in Philadelphia, I knew I once again couldn't handle my own apartment down in Florida because I didn't do a good enough job in Philadelphia when I had a safety blanket. So I was like, nah, man, I think I got to tuck it away. And that's true. After a couple expensive beers, the three of us realized that we almost all went to Full Sail at the same time.
Yeah, it was wild.
I think me and Travis would have both gone for video or film, so we would have ran into each other around 2004, 2005 time.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to do. I was going to be a film editor. That was my goal.
And that was what I was going to school for, man. So wild.
So weird.
Yeah, and I literally lived next door to Full Sail for most of a year because I had friends going there, so I moved into their apartment during that time. But anyway,
life found a way. Here we are.
No, that's how it goes. But yeah, that's like the big thing for me is just kind of continuing the storytelling and diversifying that and getting some of these other projects, getting my ass in gear and actually doing these things that I keep talking about.
Well, and the thing is you've made a lot of progress. I mean, when I first met you, you were on ANTP, and the steps you've taken in that time since, you've really leveraged that, what you've done. You've really taken advantage of what you were able to do there with the relationships.
Yeah, ANTP is the reason I'm still doing this.
Yeah.
Is that gave me that launching point. So that was huge. And I've tried to take what I learned from that and just keep refining it and keep working on that. And the relationships were the huge thing in that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I tell you, my goal for 25, as I saw for my own life, as I saw the success of saying, I'm just going to achieve this. Didn't push it, but it did get me finding other cons. It got me finding ways to get into speaking gigs and just trusting that if it doesn't happen, I can at least get close. And then it did happen for speaking gigs and move forward. So my goal for 25 is to do the parts. And now when I say work, I do have a day job, but that still ties in a lot to my social media, not social media, my digital media stuff. And there's a real shift happening there to where I can get off the desk of running a day-to-day operational thing and get into more of the digital media creation and actually doing some charity work along with that, which will align with everything else I'm going to do with Dragon Con and all of this stuff. So I really want my work, my creation in 2025 to be the only doing the parts that I truly love, and to attract the right people to my teams, as it were, that will love the parts that I don't love, and they will handle that. And to not change my money, but if it does change, to improve it. Because that's the other thing. I've built a life that is still middle class because the economy keeps moving the freaking goalposts. But I've built a life that is slightly expensive, but it fits for my family. And so I can't just quit my job and go chase this as I could have and did 10 years ago. I mean, it's so that's what I want to do in 25 is become that desirable guest, that voice, and to become that teacher. I've gotten a recent inspiration listening to a writing podcast. I do not consider myself a writer. I don't have like this story built up in me. I might do some autobiographies or some other stuff in the future, but stop it, Phil. Stop it. I see you laughing like a lump on a log.
With your Georgian education?
I will attract the people to my teams that can do the parts that I don't like.
Can I give you a pro tip real quick then, Charles?
No.
WD-40 your mic stand, because I can hear it squeaking every time you touch it.
Those Heils are silent. A Heil boom mic is silent. We all know. I don't know what you're talking about. Mine did the same thing. I had one of those that started squeaking like crazy. I had to get rid of it.
I fidget. I can't help it. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's right. Listening to this podcast, one of their things on Patreon is for authors, and they do really good. And I'm finding inspiration for my storytelling. Like, I don't want to write a book, but they give you homework, and it's like in your character, the character that you're writing. What's the thing that irritates them the most? Right about that. And I don't necessarily take that prompt, but I get inspired by how they talk about the things. Go, oh, I can use this, because everything I do live is storytelling, the game show, everything. So I really want to then build an actual workshop to where I can say, oh, that's the thing they do on their Patreon, is at a certain level that you pledge at, once a month, you get to pick one of the hosts to give you direct writing coaching. I'm like, that's a really cool concept. And that's something I really resonate in doing. But then I got to build an audience, right? You used the word, Stephen, consistency. And let me tell you, that's, there's probably a few things that separate me from Brian Emmett, but that's a huge one. Like, he went in knowing, one, who he was. He's going to do Coverville. He's going to do music. He loves it. That's all he wants to talk about in that moment when he started. He consistently has done that over the 20 years that he's done it. And I've just been Mr. Opposite of that the entire time, figuring out who I was, being inconsistent. But same as you, Travis, same as you, Hammond, I want people to celebrate me. The more I've interacted with Dragon Con, the more I've got to interact with some of the actors and celebrities at Dragon Con. Everybody says the same thing, right? When they meet, they're so, well, for most of them, right? They're so down to earth. And they really are just people, but they're people who do what they love to do, and the fans celebrate them for it. And that's where I want to get. That's what I want to be. I know I'll go back and forth with Ibit about being a judge on the show. And I think mostly he doesn't want me to be one of the judges for the weeks, because I asked him like 1,000 times to be a judge on AMTP. And that's fair, Ibit. That is fair. But I want to be that one of the, when I think of storytelling, I think of Charles. Or when I think of how to build an unknown empire, I think it's Charles. Nobody knows what I do. It's crazy. And that's really where I want to go with that this year is how do I do that? And I'm trying to figure out a way to motivate myself. Kind of, I talked about earlier about not wanting to get out of the house. I also don't get out of my head. I literally have two phones. One's for work, one's mine. So one I keep on my car to handle phone calls or whatever. The other one's in a holder so I can go record when I have this random thought, record. Guess what? I used to have a bunch of random thoughts like, oh man, I need to write this down. I have nothing. I'm driving. I can't write it down. Now that I can record, I don't have the random thoughts. I'm like, oh, I need to do a video. So I'm just going to have to do a dearest diary video. Today, I did this stuff because you got to build the muscle. You will not run a marathon if you don't start taking the walks around the neighborhood. Right. Yeah. And I know I feel like I come off in these things. I mean, I love Digital Media Track at Dragon Con. I take zero credit for it. I know I have a lot of influence in it, but if it weren't for you guys and everybody like you guys, everybody who's watching, everybody who comes and attends, it wouldn't be what it is, right? That I can do because there's deadlines and I have to get this. And it's a passion. I wanted to open doors for people. I wanted to show people. I can do that every day if I just pick up my phone and record a video. And I don't know why I have trouble getting out of my head. So I'm going to throw that to you guys, not imposter syndrome, but just that, oh, I'm gonna, and then you don't. Do y'all experience any of that?
Yeah, you got to break the inertia, right? The hardest part is taking the first step to doing the thing. Once you actually get going with it, it's like I was mentioning at the beginning where I was, super nervous right up until 30 seconds before I started the live thing. Take that first step to do the live episode, and all of a sudden everything falls into place and you're doing it. And that's the big one, is it's forcing yourself to get up off the couch, get out of the chair, hit record, whatever it is, and then start going, and things will happen.
I did this right when I got home from work. I have a Patreon episode that's due on Christmas Day. I haven't started editing it. It's going to take me about 6 to 8 hours to go from first cut to printing. And I sat down and played NHL 24 for about 3 hours instead of doing it. So, yeah, I mean, yes, I actively do that because, I'm sitting at base camp 1 looking up and it's just like, you know what? It's a little snowy up there right now. We're gonna come back, Let's take that break and at least play a little PlayStation first because my team is in the Stanley Cup Finals and they can't really win it without me, so I got to be there to help them out. Yes, I control the entire team, but that's not the point. The point is yeah, man, some days you just don't feel motivated to get the engines rolling, and instead of beating yourself up over it, for me, it's just you know what? Maybe that's what I need to do at this very moment, right? Because if I go into something and I'm not full-hearted into it, it's going to show in the work, right? If I start editing and I'm half-assing it, it's going to sound like a half-ass edited episode. So where I used to be I would be upset with myself for procrastinating, right? Because I could be getting stuff done at this moment, but yet here I am not doing it. So now I'm angry that it's not done. I'm also angry at myself for not doing it. And then I start calculating time of I've wasted so much time on procrastinating. I've kind of gotten myself out of that headspace and more of the fact that I know what my deadline is. The episode will come out at that time. And if I'm not ready to get it done, then I'm not going to do it because I would rather have my full heart into what I'm doing than shovelware of an episode and have it sound crappy.
Yeah.
For me, it's all about discipline in your thoughts. It's real easy to just go to Reddit and lose 30 minutes, 45 minutes of your life. So it's for me, everything's got to be intentional or I'm not going to do it. It's the rest even has to be intentional. There was I went to a beach house and I was exhausted with my family over the summer. And I was everybody's cooking and stuff. And I suck at cooking. I'm really tired. I had to really search what do I need right now? What is the thing that's going to put me back in a good place? A nap. Everybody else is cooking. They're fine. I could go help them, but I'm just going to get in the way because I suck at it. I'll clean the kitchen. That's what I'll do. I had to justify it to myself a little bit, but it was still I need rest if I'm going to be useful. So I'm going to go take a nap. It's the same thing with creative pursuits. Sometimes you might just legit need some time to play and to watch NHL or play
Yeah.
a video game or whatever. But you need to know you need that and not just default to it.
So hard.
Default to the you got to sit there and
Yeah.
it's something you
And-
train yourself to do is go, okay, I need to get this out the door. And I've searched myself. I know that the rest can wait, and I can go do the thing. And then it almost like it triggers you in a way to get started. It's almost a motivator just by searching yourself.
That just happened to me where I spent the month of October. I was doing my shows, but I also said, no, I am going to spend some time and I'm going to watch, The Haunting of Hill House because I've wanted to for a while. I'm just doing that for me. So it's just me and the dog on the couch watching that. And not only was that an amazing series, but it motivated me to start doing a new thing that's shorter. I only record for like 15 minutes per episode, but it motivated me to do that as well. So I took a little bit of a rest, a recharge, and found something new out of that I can work with. So yeah, that absolutely is a thing.
Yeah, man. I mean, coming into the end of this calendar year, I'm running on empty. Like I am numb to a lot of things. Earlier this year, I lost my ability to get excited about anything.
There's a pill for that.
Of course there is.
It's called mushrooms.
Wow,
Phil,
we
what?
learned a lot about you.
Holy cow! All right.
So, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't know what I'm talking about when I say mushrooms can get you excited.
Very
I don't know
clear,
much.
very clear. But the fact that you've mentioned it says an awful lot about where you want to be.
Oh, I believe in better living through pharmaceuticals, baby. We can talk about that a lot on all kind of things. Prozac is a beautiful drug, as is weed. So we can talk. So anyway, but yeah, I'm on empty. My daughter's car in our yard last night got her window smashed in by some butt face in the neighborhood. When my wife called me this morning, I mean, I wasn't like, who cares? It was like, all right, call this place, whatever. But there was just nothing, no rage, no sadness, no calmness, no nothing. And like, man, I mean, I'm glad I'm not stressing out because that's what a lot of people do through the holiday seasons. I know I care, but there's just that. I thought maybe I've just done too much this year, and I got to figure out how to refill my energy. My
You're like Ron Livingston in Office Space.
Yeah.
yeah. So to that point, I want to, still on the thing of words matter. I want to read this real quick before we get to that. Jen says having a solid, organized, planned base to push off of helps, which really plays into my mental metaphors of I've always picture anything in growth as swimming, right? You got to push away from the edge to take that chance, but you'll build that strength as you go across. And then she says, focusing on a few things that are most important and hold off all those ideas, thoughts, desires that are not of the same importance at this moment is brilliant. And I honestly cannot remember who said it this year and all the different things I've watched and read or whatever, but somebody's like, there's no such thing as time management. You cannot manage time. You can only manage you can only manage yourself in time.
Yep.
And as we're talking about taking breaks, which is very hard to do and very needed, and I found myself more and more here lately going, if I could just have a week where I'm not having to answer a billion calls from work, I'm not even having to think about it, literally not having to worry about it because it's okay. It's okay. And then not have to draw them at home and not have just a rest. That would be great. But also in the meantime, talking about the bigger picture of next year, well, how I got those speaking gigs, how Travis got to do live, how we all got to achieve the things we achieved this year was because we pushed it as much as we could. And somebody out, the universe, God, whatever, brought somebody else to help pick up that ball. Like when Travis said, maybe I'll go to Dragon Con, I jumped right on it. Phil jumped on it. I'm sure Steven, you're like, yeah. Here's how we do it. Let's go. Let's push. And you didn't have to do it yourself. And so when I think of, finding the stories, it's when it's a sizable editing project, I mean, it's like a 3-hour thing. I have 3 hours easily every Saturday, but also I do have to pick and choose on Saturdays. How much do I work and how much will I just go play a video game? Because I know tomorrow morning I got to get up and do a gig. Tomorrow afternoon I might have to do something. You squeezing in that scheduling. I should change that word. Scheduling in that break time is good. But also, if you don't, I've noticed in life, if you aren't doing the thing, you're not going to attract somebody to help you do the thing and take it to a better level. Right. So that's one of the things. Again, I can't remember who said it. It's a motivational speaker, but look at the 5 people you surround yourself with, and that's the level you're playing on. And I love that you guys are here. You guys are playing on the level that I'm playing on. And I love it. And I love creating with you guys. So there's no negativity to this of, I want to make more friends this next year, more creative friends. I want to play on higher and higher levels. So I want to make connections that takes me higher and not shaves 10 minutes before the show and looks like a potato. But
I'm just as God made me. I'm sorry.
You know what I would do to help me out is
What's that?
start using the telephone more. Honest to goodness, like if somebody, I know it sounds archaic and weird,
Love that
but like
you
if
told
I have a
that.
thought and I pick up the phone and called Travis and said, Travis, I just came up with this idea. I guarantee Travis would noodle it with me. And you probably would too, but I don't do that. I'm like, I'll go while I'm on a walk or whatever, but I'll go sit down and I'll try to remember to talk about this. It's not the same. Texting each other back and forth in Discord is not the same as a full-on conversation.
Well, it's because
on the phone.
Discord sucks and kills all inspiration and energy.
I think anything in writing loses energy.
It does. Loses the
It
energy.
depends on
You
what
lose
it
the
is.
tone.
Sometimes it's just a matter of, here's the idea. Next time we talk, and especially if you got something that's on the regular, then it's good. Like with Ibit, I can send him a message and go, hey, next time we're talking, we got to talk about this. And I pull that text up and I have a thing and it says, oh, next time we're talking. And so when we finish soundography, we take 10 or 15 minutes to cover whatever it is we're talking about. I mean, we've been having informal production meetings about Taskmaster for months now.
Yep.
I'll tell you, man, you're right. That creative connection, and Ibit has a special energy to him that he's just so that's why I've always called him the nicest man in podcasting. But he really is just this loving ball of energy that he gives consistently. And when I was creating with him, just to have somebody like that I respected, saw what he did to respect what I did, it just fed in energy. And that's a really cool thing.
Well,
I'll be honest, I'm a little jealous you get to work with him all the time because he's awesome.
It's great. I love it. And I'll honestly say I feel asked backwards into some really good communities. I mean, it's not like I strategically planned myself to fall into Frog Pants and you guys and this other group of podcasters that I know, but it's just how it happened. And I am continually thankful for the people I guess kind of fell ass backwards into hanging out with. But
Same.
Well, it's an amazing thing, and sometimes it's fate, and sometimes it's luck, and sometimes you do position yourself. Like I have angled myself to work with certain people at certain times, and it's worked out beautifully, and I continue to be friends with them. But at the same time, when it happens organically, it feels different. It's almost, I don't know. There's something about naturally clicking with somebody and saying, "Hey, we both like this thing. Let's do a show about this thing."
Yeah, yeah. Then you have the addicts. So that's why like Phil and I really are very careful about what we're working on, because we will work on this project, then add this project, then add this project, and then we just spiral where we're just killing each other, recording constantly.
And I just realized like about a couple of days ago that I'm gonna get into Warhammer. You guys ever hear of this Warhammer thing? Yeah. So like,
not it.
My girlfriend was like, all right, this should be about a week and a half. I guess I can live through your hyper fixation on Warhammer until you switch off to something else. But yeah, man, it's I got to be careful with little things like this before I find myself down a rabbit hole by chasing that white rabbit.
One of the things I was going to bring up, though, is it's really interesting because, like, when Tom got a hold of me and said, hey, I want you to do something for DTNS, I was really nervous, and I'm still kind of nervous about it. And when I mentioned to Tom, I'm like, are you sure you got the right guy? I mean, I'm just Hammond. I mean, I'm just dad joke guy on soundography. And he's like, no, you work consistently editing shows for Ibit. And if he's happy with you, then you're gonna be more than good enough for me. And I'm like, well, wow, okay. I'm putting it in that scale. All of a sudden it felt different.
Yeah. So
you re-slide that paper across the table, Tom, with a bigger number.
So bringing me back around to Words Matter, right? I'm gonna give an example. I don't want you guys to go around and do this, but I have learned to stop saying I'm not blank, and just removing the not out of it. And for the longest time, because I look at people like Tony P. Henderson or even Phil Keating, that I'm like, man, these guys are funny. They are comedians. They bring talent to the table. And I've said many times about myself to myself, I'm not a comedian. And I've decided ever last year just to start really trying to test pulling that out. And only like last week when someone's like, man, you're really funny. I was like, yeah, I know, I'm a comedian. And it was the hardest thing for me to say, but words matter. Stop it, Phil. Stop it. You're ruining a good moment.
So here we go. Here, I'm not bald. It doesn't work. I'm a liar.
But Hammond, were you telling yourself before Tom said something to you that I'm not a good enough editor?
Oh, no, yeah.
to be a professional editor?
I'm never going to feel like I'm good enough for any job
But
until I start
if you
doing
take
it. That's the way it is.
right, sure. But if you take that phrase out of I'm not a good enough editor and go, I'm a good enough editor, that doing the job is a whole different thing than the belief in yourself. So
Yeah.
you don't have to use that one, but
I'm still not. I still doubt every episode of Soundography that goes out to this day.
780.
No, Soundography, 10 seasons, but I still doubt every episode that goes out.
So 1,000 episodes.
I think we're at like almost 200 for Soundography.
Was your season one show? What the heck?
No,
man?
it's like 10. It's like 10 to 15 episodes per season because we were actually alternating between A&TP and Soundography.
So, but if you look under your belt, not literally, but if you look at, you have thousands, plural, of episodes.
Oh, yeah.
You've been on, that you've edited, that you've produced, and
all the current geek stuff, all the current Geek Chronicle stuff. I won't say nervous. I'll say trepidatious about, because words matter. I'll say trepidatious about each one of those that went out for review, and then when they started being sent to people when they got started being sent to Jenny Josephson, and they got sent to Justin Robert Young, and to Johnson to hear, and all these people that Tom knows and works with, and we are getting feedback back on them. I thought they were listening to something else because I couldn't believe the feedback was as good as it was.
Yeah, that's going to be a rough gig, right? You're doing the editing on a podcast contest where people are being judged for their editing and their story structure. That's a little too meta for even me to like.
But that's also you sitting on this side of the table versus that side, which is
no, but like if your contestants have a better edit on their small pod than you do on the overarching episode that goes out, like. That's some pressure, man.
Which is why I only did the Patreon feed. I didn't need the pressure of the live feed. We gave that to Bobby.
Yeah. Take that, Bobby.
But Phil, what's a not that you can take out of your life? What is something you're telling yourself you're not a blank?
Well, actually, I was aware of this, but not aware of this at the same time. I used to call my podcast a stupid podcast. Or something that would go on during the live show, like, oh my God, this is so stupid.
Right.
And I didn't realize I was doing it. Now, I wasn't really calling my show stupid. It was more of like the insanity and the silliness that's going on is just like, holy moly. And it wasn't until somebody pointed out to me, like, hey, you do this, right? You like at the live show at Dragon Cons, even you're like, this is stupid. Like, you do realize that you're doing that. And it wasn't, and I couldn't really put a grips around it or like even recall myself saying it. And then they pulled up the live show from the year prior and it was just like, okay, yeah, look at that. I said it roughly 4 to 5 times during the live show. So that's a word that I've worked out of my vocabulary and to find different ways to, when things are getting a little too chaotic, I trained myself to find a different adjective to describe myself and my co-hosts on stage. And like I said, I probably did it for the last 8 to 9 years and didn't realize it until somebody presented it with me. And they presented it to me not as like an attack or like something negative. It's just like, hey, I don't think you're doing this. And maybe I'm not going to tell you to change, but maybe you should reanalyze, how you're talking about your own show, but not only your own show, but everybody else that creates with you on that show. Right. because I, unlike most of y'all, I've never done a podcast by myself. I always do it in a group. Every show I've ever done has been me and so it was just a way for me to step back and reanalyze the verbiage I use about talking about not only myself but my best friends that I create with. So that's something that I reflected hard on and was able to instantly pivot and make a change on it.
I still call my show a silly little show, and I've had people tell me stop.
See, silly
but also
is something that I can say though, because we are being, clowns.
Yeah.
We were being silly.
I think that's context, because what I'm saying, I'm talking about beyond the playlist.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to have a different level
that's
of credibility.
Literally, you almost won a comedy award for how silly it was.
It's tough to toe that line between like self-deprecating humor and going too far with that.
This guy yells at me about that constantly.
Because words matter, and if you use so much, I mean, more than 20% of self-deprecation will just ruin you, I think.
You don't know what you're talking about.
But Travis does. Travis, tell him.
I mean, but the thing is, it's finding the balance point to it, right? Because you can be self-deprecating, and it can be funny, and it can work. I mean, Richard Lewis made an entire career out of that, but you have to do it in the right way. And for me, I think the biggest thing is just kind of realizing, like, understanding and allowing myself to think people want to hear me talk about stuff. That's the hard part. Even though I do it a lot and I love telling stories, I also just constantly think I'm only talking into an echo chamber and nobody's actually listening until I get some sort of a feedback. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to figure out how to, because it's something that I want to do without having to rely on a day job, yet I'm constantly worried that I'm not good enough at it to do it all the time.
So what's the phrase that you've been telling yourself that you need to remove the not from, or the negativity from?
I'm trying to remove negativity in general. I feel like negativity is way too easy to find. You can find that anywhere. You want negativity. I mean, I'm famously, and I joke about this and on Wait, you haven't seen all the time. Like, I like everything. It's really hard for me to not like a movie or a TV show or an album or whatever it is. It's got to do, I feel like the worst thing a movie can be or a show can be is boring, but it's got to do a lot for me to hate it. I don't like using that phrase. But I can be critical of something while still enjoying it. It's like I saw Kraven the Hunter last weekend. It's not good. But I found some things that were, somewhat enjoyable in it, and I could kind of take something away from that. So I do try. That is my big thing, is removing the easy way to criticize something. I'm not just going to say something is stupid or something is poorly written or something is poorly directed. I want to try and give a reason for my criticism of something, but also understand how difficult it is to do the thing.
Yeah.
And make it done. I heard a phrase, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year. It was Mikey Newman talking about making a movie, and he gave the best analogy I've ever heard for getting a film made. And it was, making a film is like throwing a dart from orbit and hitting a bullseye.
Wow.
And that is finishing a film, is doing that. So the fact that any films get made in general is pretty impressive. When they're good and well made, it's even that much more impressive. But it's so hard to make that and get it done, because there's so many hands involved. There's so many fingers in the pie, and so many ways that it can go wrong. And so I just try to really focus on that aspect of it. Whether it's a film, whether it's a comic book, whatever it is, that creative endeavor. That's the thing I try to focus on.
Well, and famously, if you go back and listen to the Third Eye Blind episode of Soundography, neither Brian and I liked it. It's a classically funny episode because of some of the things that are said in that episode.
You panned them.
And
this band I grew up with, skating at open skate at Iceline rinks.
Right?
I had a hand signal to the DJ, like, I need some semi-charm left. Play that 3-Eye Blind, brother. Right?
So,
and I was
but
like, I saw that in the feed, and I was like, here we go. Childhood band. These guys are going to love it. And they're like, it was garbage. And I was like, no! E2, Hammond! E2!
but the thing I kept saying throughout the episode, though, was they still have done things I've never done. So I have to respect them for the effort, the drive, the wherewithal to get stuff done and to be a band that we all know and that some people love. And so I always, everything was a caveat with that. But at the same time, when it came time to pick a cover, I said you should cover "Don't Forget Me When I'm Gone" by Glass Tiger, because nothing would be more suiting than a mediocre band from the 90s covering a mediocre band from the 80s.
How's this removing negativity? I'm not sure.
No, but the thing is, what Travis said, though, to get things done, you have to be able to give credit to people who've accomplished big things. Yeah. So no matter how much I dislike a movie, I still have to admire them for getting it made. No matter how much I dislike an album, I still have to admire them for getting an album out, done. Someone funded it. Someone supported it. People are buying it. There are people who like these songs and love these songs and have precious memories to them. Whether I like them or not, I mean, look, I make no qualms about the fact that I'm not a big Nirvana fan, but I cannot take away from the fact that they've touched the lives of millions of people with the music they put out. It just wasn't me. Now, if you say, what does, I've got plenty of music that hangs in my in my heart, but it's not Nirvana, and I'm okay with that. And I hope everyone is okay with the fact that it's not for me. But I got to respect that they did it.
Well, Hammond, I wish you'd step back from that mic, my friend. Steven. What not phrase? What have you been telling yourself that you got to change this year?
I am not interesting. This is a big one. Kind of alludes to a little bit of what Travis was talking about. Like, wake up in the morning. Well, let me see if anybody wants to listen to me say anything today. Like, you wouldn't believe the anxiety I have around standing with a group of people and then realizing I have the conch shell. Like, I'm in charge of talking right now. And just feeling like, oh, crap, am I going to say something stupid? And then analyzing that conversation forever. Like, I think I just bored those people to tears for the last 10 minutes. I don't really know. Or, and one of the things I think that drew me to podcasting is I got the microphone. I don't see the faces. And I had Ashley, the bubbliest person on the planet, laughing at everything I said. I'm like, we're laughing at it. We're entertaining each other, and that's plenty. But then I get out there in the wild, and I'm like, hey, did you guys see the thing that I thought was really cool? Probably don't care. I'll just wander back over here real quick. Never mind. I just immediately try to figure out, I do that at home because, I love us as creators, but if I meet somebody on the street, they don't know who we are or what we do. I could go, my friend Travis said, blah, 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 and they don't know who that is. They don't care. But I feel like there's still value in people conversing, me telling people stories or whatever. I'm getting caught up in it just talking to you right now. Like, is any of this even worth me saying? So I'm trying to figure out. No, I appreciate that.
Of course, Steven. What would you hear us say if we all went, of course, we think this is the most amazing? Your brain would still go, they're my friends. They're lying.
Yeah, let's punch down, Charles. Right? You're the comedian.
He laughed, didn't he? Shut it, Phil.
No, it's not, and it's funny because it sounds all like self-pitying or whatever, but it's really just trying to figure out, everybody's got something of value to say. I'm entertained by it, and other people are telling me stuff. Why couldn't I feel like I could, be just as engaging, with something? But instead, I'm going to have this big conversation with somebody in a group, go back to the hotel room, Dragon Con, be like, man, that could have gone better. I could have said that different. I backpedal all the time for that very reason. Like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best move or whatever,
So what is it that you can tell yourself to help move forward this year? That you found it interesting? If you found it interesting, that's all that matters?
That's probably enough. Yeah, that's probably enough. If I felt like it was worth sharing, then it was worth sharing. Maybe it wasn't the right audience for it. It's like a comedian I heard once said, if people didn't laugh at my jokes, it's because they're refusing the gift of laughter that I am trying to give them. Whether it's successful or not, or whether it's the right audience, it's I'm trying to give you something which is a little bit of joy, and if you refuse it, that's not on me. You know, someone
Yeah.
somewhere would think that was fun and would take that as a joke and enjoy themselves. You chose not to. It's much like Travis was talking about. You know, like I go out into the world because I want to enjoy things. I go to a movie trying to enjoy it, trying to have a good time. I'm not gonna walk into it going, that trailer was crap. Now I'm expecting the movie to be crap. What am I wasting my money for? Why would I do that to myself? Like, I've watched so many movies the internet said were awful and been like, man, that was great, unexpected, awesome. You know, like
I will say
Transformers,
though,
yeah.
if you can get Phil to go to a movie that he thinks he's not going to like, and then make him talk about it for an hour, it's great entertainment.
Oh, that's a
So
joy. Yeah,
I did that,
nice.
and that worked.
Yeah,
Oh,
do
yeah.
that again.
Still waiting for my money back, bud.
Yep.
Well, I'd like to wrap this up by giving a little bit here. I'll start with you, Steven. I find you truly interesting. I love the things that you do. I love how you create. I want to be more like you in that way of, man, he just says something and you hear the smile on your voice and you just get some comfort from hearing what you say. And that's what I'd like to be more like, and less like the aggressive ass hat that I am. Speaking of nice hats, Travis, you are the epitome of calm. You are just always interested in what you're saying. You're interested in your guests. I've listened to probably over a year now of Wade I haven't seen. And there was like one episode they had a guest on that I thought I felt tension. And you're like, the guy was not, I mean, in my opinion, as a listener, not great. I'm like, oh yeah, Travis, he'll not talk to this guy again. Then you had him on again, like a few months later, and another good conversation. Like, okay, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I missed what Travis was getting out of it. And that's the thing. You don't care. You are there to share an idea, and you're one of the most sharing people I know. And it's amazing. Hammond, you just have this talent for finding people and connecting people, and overly humble is the positive way of saying where your brain lies. You're not good enough, but you are. And the stuff you've touched, the work you've done, the consistency you've had, it's again something I strive to achieve. Well, under my own podcasting belt, I probably have thousands plural of episodes. Phil D. Keating last year brought out, what was the number, 46 failed, you used to call them 46 failed podcasts or whatever. It was a big number of shows that I started and retired. And the fact that you're still doing what you love and growing it and getting bigger, man, it's something to achieve and strive for. And that's where I draw from. Phil, you are trying to be the internet's goblin, but you really are the nicest, kindest person, the most giving person I've ever seen. Don't act like you're on the phone watching something.
No, I'm looking at cats on Reddit. Continue.
But honestly,
This
you are an
one.
inspiration
Oh,
to
God.
people, and you can give me yeah, I'll say it. It's after two. You give me shit all you want. But the reason I know I can
Language.
say, I can own, I'm a comedian, I'm funny, is because I can make you laugh. And that's every time I have
We
you
do
on
that
any
in
show,
private, Charles.
every time I'm working with you on anything, whether you know it or not, I have to get one good Phil Keating. Like, you start to say something, then the joke hits, and that deep belly laugh comes out. And I know, I was like, you made me feel better about myself. And I love that. But I also see what you do with Bosch, see what you guys have done. You're very goal oriented. You very much know what you want to do with this project you got coming out in April. I know you've been in your heart working on that for a couple years now. And yes, was that 7 years? Yeah, I
7
do math.
years.
But man, that's what I want to be more like, is how quick you are with the wit, how funny you can be in the moment, how you're not afraid to try an abortion joke on a panel with professionals and have it halfway hit and then just roll on with it. You do amazing work, man.
My
You're great.
secret is Camel Lights.
That, kids, is a cigarette reference. So with that being said, guys, I'll start with Travis. Where can we find you on the web?
In tvstravis.com or any social media network, TV's Travis. I've managed to get that everywhere, so it's pretty easy. But tvstravis.com has links to all of it from there.
Hammond.
I am J Hammond C pretty much everywhere on the internet, including jhammondc.com.
Stephen.
Yeah, I'm Steve H&H everywhere. You can go to my Leaktree/Steve H&H. That's the place to be, because I do those with the days with Travis every Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it's a great time. We're doing a Garfield Christmas next week, so that should be
Of course you are. The only show I want to do with Steven is rage-filled calmness. Like, I want to get on there like, Phil heard me a little bit tonight. I'm raging about the computer. I mean, I'm raging. I'm like, I heard my kid come out of his little studio over there, like, what's going on? Because I was, I want to do that with Steven, and Steven go, the sun's getting low, big guy. You got some real big feelings. And just the therapy in that 10-minute podcast, that would, that's all I want to do. Is just get
I got
Steven
you anytime. Just call me up.
Phil, where can we find you on the web?
Imaginary Nomad, Twitch, Twitter. Nah, we're not on Twitter. Twitch, Blue Sky, Instagram with a 1. I haven't been streaming, but doesn't mean we can't do the 5th annual Keating Family Christmas Eve extravaganza, where me and the Imaginary Nomad come on stream. So we have picked what we're doing.
Oh, cool.
I won't announce it yet. I might announce it Sunday night as I go on Travis's show where we watch the Royal Tenenbaums. So if you want to see what we're going to watch that night, either show up at 8 p.m. I don't want to commit to a time at some point, right? Just follow us there, and then I'll announce it on Travis's show on Sunday night. So
be there.
Charles, what about
you?
Yeah, right. I forgot, like, church might be at 8 p.m., so we can't go since it's Christmas, and that's the one caveat. She'll come on stream if I go to church, but we'll figure it out.
The things we do for our craft.
I know, right? Charles, where can I find you on the internet?
Man, everything is RGOP 42, Rock Out of Podcasting. I love that I get to copy Ibbot and say, because I asked him one year at a conference he and I were at, it's like, hey, man, you got any business cards? So I was handing out my cards, like, yeah, here you go. And it just says Brian, I think it says Brian K. Ibbot at the time. It was like Brian Ibbot. And you flip it over, it says Google me. And I love that. That was a goal. I can now say, just Google Rock Out of Podcasting. I am the one that comes up. And you will find me striving to get out of my own way and do more in this world in 2025. And I want to say Tyra is one of the best creative forces out there. I don't know if she'll hear this part, but she is one of the biggest, happiest inspirations and has opened so many doors for me and many of us. And we all say, we thank you, Tyra. We hope you're having a great time at Disney World, and we'll love it in the new year when you come back. And be awesome together. We'll be back the second week in January. So everybody have great holidays. I truly love you all.
Sounds like a song the Smiths would make if they didn't break up.
Yeah.
I just want to,